And I think just learning to like trust ourselves more. I think that's the other thing is I don't always feel like I trusted myself to like make choices or decisions about my own life. And I would like looking to other people like, is this okay? Should I do this? And I just want to be like, no, I got this.
Hi there, I'm Emily Schaller, and you're watching the Rock CF Boltcast. Before we get started, there's a few things we need to go over. First off, nothing on this podcast should be considered medical advice. Medical advice should only come from your doctor. Views expressed on this podcast are solely opinions of the guest and not necessarily opinions of myself or the Rock CF Foundation. Enjoy this episode of the Rock CF Boltcast. This episode of the Rock CF Boltcast is sponsored by Vertex.
Hi, my name is Rose Martini. I was diagnosed with cystic fibrosis at 2 days old, and I live in Petaluma, California, in beautiful Sonoma County.
Wow. Do you work for the Chamber of Commerce?
I should.
You should. Okay, so 2 days old.
2 days old.
Wait, actually, how old are you right now?
4 days old.
You're 4 days old right now. You look great. Are you 44 or 45?
Baby, I'm 48.
Oh, you don't look a day over 44.
Now you're
All right, you're 48 years old.
48 years old.
Let's talk about that diagnosis. 2 days old, what happened? And then how was that, how did it go?
Immediately with the stomach blockage and surgery at 2 days old. So pretty typical for some of us, you know. And I think I was just immediately, my parents knew something was up, throwing up and et cetera. So
meconium ileus?
Yes.
A little surgery to fix that. And did they know right then it was CF? Did you feel different from other kids growing up? Did you hide it? Like, how was your childhood?
Yeah, so I would definitely agree with you that I definitely always felt like I was different for sure. You just do, and you can't, and not that anybody's like, most people really had no idea with me. I wasn't coughing a lot, but yeah, I was really skinny, and you know, I had to always carry these pills around with me and tell everybody that I had this thing, and like the sweat part and being dehydrated, because I would do, you know, all this, cheerleading and band and all that stuff, and I would pass out sometimes because I didn't really understand the connection. You know, we were kids, and I just wanted to do what everybody else was doing. Nothing was precious about me, and I know your parents are like that with you
Same.
too, and you have brothers, and so it was like, just get out there and live your life. And I think in that way it was great. I think that's what helped me just kind of find autonomy and live my own life and figure out what I wanted to do.
Walk us through kind of how you got into music and what you're doing with it today. I know you coach at a camp. What do we call it? Diva camp?
Diva camp, yeah, that's one, yeah.
Perfect for you, perfect. So walk us through the music side, and then I want to get to the workout side, but let's go music first. Like, how did you get into it? Yeah.
I think just really little, I was always singing and performing for my family, whether they liked it or not. And, you just kind of get the bug. I don't know, for me, that's what I immediately connected to. My mom always had music on in the house. My stepdad was a musician. He played in bands. I would go and get on stage, and I was like, okay, this is for me. This is where I'm supposed to be. There's just something that it resonated with me. Like, this is what I want to do. There's something about, for me, not just singing, but performing is the only time I feel truly present, like in my body. I just decided, I think as I started doing it, like really kind of actively doing it more in my 20s, and then approaching 30, I was like, I really want to do this. We're going to go to Paris, and me and my band, and we stopped and saw you and did your show in Detroit, and then went to Paris, and we performed. And like, I think that's what, and it, things were happening where you're talking to people in the industry, and you start to get this like taste of like, oh, maybe I could do this actually for real, for a living.
Now, I remember you would say, because we kept in touch, of course, when you were in France, and you would say, I'm the only one over here running. You would get up and run and be like, I'm the only one. Everyone looked at me like I was crazy. Is that that's when you really got into running, right?
I always ran. I think I always ran like at least I had been working out since I was in my 20s too. And I think that's another reason my lungs were as good as they have been. I got that. I was like, oh, I get it now. This is making me feel better on so many levels. But like up here, like also up here, like I really needed that release and that outlet. I love feeling strong, and like running is one of those things you can do anywhere you go. So anytime I would travel, I'd been to Greece and to Paris, and anywhere you go, there you just put your shoes on and you can go. The other thing I was going to mention though about exercise for me is that I was also diagnosed with type 1 diabetes at 18. So I know not everybody deals with that, and it's not great. And that is something that also really affects me. Because I'm type 1 related to CF, I feel like my pancreas ekes out. Just, I'm insulin dependent, but I see a huge shift on days that, like, when I work out hard, the amount of insulin I need is smaller, even for carb ratio. So I just know that I run better, I work better, I think better, I feel better when I'm exercising. It's such a benefit to that part of my life. And with CF-related diabetes, it can really impact, like, I'm so glad I got it under control, because at 18, the doctors back then weren't as in tune with CF-related diabetes versus just type, and even now, it's, we're such this weird, combination of things and symptoms that you're seeing a lot of different doctors for different things, but my endocrinologist doesn't necessarily know. She's not an expert in CF related. She's just an expert in type 1 diabetes, which is great, but it's a little bit different for me. So I've had to really fine tune that, and exercise is one of the things that I think just helps regulate that for me.
Yeah, you've got that dialed in so good. It's awesome, and it helps, like you said, it helps your mind, helps your lungs and CF, helps your digestion, I'm sure, helps keep things regular, and then your diabetes too. So yeah, it's you've definitely got that unlocked, but it's got to be I think it's a routine for you now. All right, let's get into some current stuff.
Okay.
I want to get obviously into the perimenopause, because I know that's really digging into.
You're gonna get into it, whether you like it or not.
I'm getting in there. I know I am. So, your first round of IV antibiotics, when was that again? Was that
2018? So I was 42, and that was my first round of IV. I've cultured Pseudomonas in my life, probably since 2013. I know I've cultured it. I just, for some reason, was able to either not necessarily knock it out, but feel better with oral antibiotics. Things started shifting and changing, and I feel like that, even the doctors are like, don't you feel bad? And I'm like, I was coughing up more for sure, and I felt kind of tired, but we'd been having the wildfires the year before, and the air was, I was just kind of like, I think with CF sometimes too, we feel terrible, but we're used to it, so we just kind of roll through, and I'm working out every day, I'm doing everything, but now that I think about it, I probably was a little underweight and a little tired, and like, your blood cell level, like your white blood cells are kind of pretty high. So I thought, oh, okay, like, what are we supposed to do here? And I remember my pulmonologist was like, well, we need you to get on IV antibiotics. And I called you. I was a wreck. I was like in tears of like, oh my, this is the beginning of the end. Like I tend to be a little bit of a worrier with the health
You're
stuff.
Pisces, all right, so.
Like the health stuff. And I called you, and I was crying, and you're like, listen, baby, you're gonna be fine. You're probably gonna need it once. You'll never need it again. You got this. I was like, okay. I was like, okay. That was rough, and I didn't realize. And I'm grateful I could do it at home, of course, but those pushes and those that get every 8 hours and timing it. My husband got really good at like setting those alarms, but it's. You're already tired initially. You don't feel great.
Yeah.
The antibiotics have side effects. That doesn't feel great. And
totally.
Then the waking up and you just kind of, we do it.
You can't get rest. When you need rest the most, it's hard to really get.
Yeah. And I think I thought, well, I remember seeing you with your PICC line, and you'd be out working out or something. I was like, I can do it. Charlotte I'd be like at the gym. Let me tell you something. That first time I was like, on the treadmill, and I was like, oh no, I am not gonna be like hitting a PR or anything. I don't even remember how far, but I realized like, okay, I need to just let this stuff do its thing. I think I just toned it way down, like maybe went for walks but I wasn't doing all that. I think I tried to, I was doing my kickboxing classes and all this stuff.
I think you gotta like reset your expectations, and you don't know how to do it until you get to that point. So I still, after 30 years of IV antibiotics, I'm like, I'm gonna run as soon as I get this PICC line. And I used to do that. Now I'm like, no, I'm gonna lay my ass on the couch for 3 days and then like let these things work and then get out there and go slow and not as far. And that hasn't been easy to accept, you know?
I think that's because you and I are, movement is such a part of our daily life. Like it is, I mean, we don't always want to do it, but I have to do it. It's like, I know how I feel after. I don't even think twice. It's like, I wake up, I do my stuff, and then I work out. And has always been, for me, that's what works for me. And I just feel like that part is really tricky because you do that little, like, all that dopamine you get from exercise is gone, and you're on these weird drugs. So you're like, I feel terrible. And it's hard to kind of be super jazzed about life in those moments. But that was the first one. And then I've had 2 more since then. So I mean, in the grand scheme of my life, I'm 48 and I didn't have my first PICC line until 42. I'm extremely lucky, and I realized that. And even my latest pulmonologist was shocked that was the first time. And he's like, "What's your mutation?" And I was like, double delta. And he's like, "What?" So everybody's different. I don't know why I got lucky in that regard, but I did, and I'm grateful. But now I'm seeing the other side of the coin.
Yeah, you're getting there, which is stinks, right? It stinks to watch, and it stinks to see you go through it. I mean, obviously, I think it's easier if you're like doing PICC lines and stuff early on. If you're just doing it and used to it, it's easier. But like, I've had a few people in their 40s, my buddy locally, the first time you guys needed IV antibiotics, you called me, and it was like, wow, what do I do? Like, I think there's the fear of, like you said before, is this the beginning of the end, or like, is my health now trending down? Like, it's got to be a little bit scary. And then after your first exacerbation, then did you start on regular IV or inhaled antibiotics and like other inhaled treatments?
No, not inhaled, because I'm allergic to Toby, so I can't do.
Oh, that's right, you can't.
Right, so it's like I'm in this weird spot. So I don't do inhaled, and then even after that one, I wasn't even doing breathing treatments. Wasn't doing anything. So it's interesting too. It's like, I also think what I'm learning is not all care teams are created equally, right? So I know for a fact that perhaps where I go, I mean, I have clinic, but it's not real close to me. It's, it's in the Bay Area, but it's an hour away, and it's just different. And I feel like, I had just been healthy for so long that I wasn't, clinic for me was like, just checking it off the list, because I didn't, they'd be like, "You're doing great. We don't know what to do for you. Have a good day," whatever.
Bye.
Right. And then when you really do need something, though, you realize how scary it can get. Like if you don't have a really good team around you. So I wasn't really doing that. I mean, there was encouragement, like, we want you to do it. I remember being 40 at clinic and the pulmonologist saying, you should, just for preventative, you should do breathing treatments. But mind you, I'm working out, I'm running marathons, I'm doing all this stuff. And so for me, airway clearance was exercise and singing. Exercise and singing have always helped me. But so I didn't do that. And then in 2021 was my second PICC line. And first let's just talk about 2020 was awful for everybody, right? In every way, shape, and form. So I'm working out in my living room because I can't go to the gym. I'm like, and then my mom died suddenly at the very end of 2020. So, I mean, I'm having and I'm coughing all the time. But it's like, I'm having Zoom meetings.
Just keep going on now.
This is before any vaccines or anything. I'm having Zoom meetings with my doctors, but it's just like, and my anxiety is like up here because, we don't know what could happen if we get COVID, it was a whole thing. So I feel like that exacerbation was related to so many things, like
stress,
emotional, anxiety, grief, like all of it. And then, so 2021, that summer, I did another PICC line. And quite frankly, I don't think it really helped. I think I did 2 weeks and I might have needed more. Because when I was done, I felt worse. Like I felt good, and then as soon as we stopped doing the antibiotics, I felt worse, and I thought, that's not normal. And
no, that's not good.
My pulmonologist at that time was like, well, it does happen sometimes. Like you just kind of, and I just was really underweight, and I just didn't feel great. I just didn't feel like myself. And I think, there was so much going on with me emotionally.
Oh,
and
yeah,
just,
yeah.
Trying to do grief counseling and trying to make sense of like, what is life now? I can't, everything about my life and my identity, and then losing my mom, it was just like,
Oh, God.
it was too much at once. And I think that really changed me. And I don't really feel like I'm that person that I was anymore, which is okay, but it's taking me like grieving my mom's death, but then grieving who I was.
Exactly.
I'm not that person.
Yeah.
And I probably won't ever be. So that all like compounded. And I think finally in 2022? Yeah, end of 2022, I started Modulator. And so that kind of, I was really hesitant to do that too, because I have all this anxiety about what about, you know, side effects, or what if I don't have the right reaction and all that kind of stuff. So that was finally when I did that. And then I did have to have another pickling last summer. So far it's, every couple years, every few, and I've done it all at home, which I'm really grateful for too, because I realize not everybody has that luxury. But this last one it was brutal. I had some things happening to my body and my lungs and that have never happened. And the way it came on was really different. And I was wheezing and, I couldn't breathe. And that has never happened. It wasn't like I wasn't producing a lot of stuff per se, but I couldn't breathe, and I couldn't breathe at night. So I'd lay down.
Yeah, that was scary. When you called me and talked me through that, I was like, wait. Like,
yeah.
I wonder what that was.
I don't know if it was a reaction maybe to, I don't know if it was like an asthmatic. It felt like someone, it was like, so I wasn't sleeping, my husband's up with me for a few hours. I'm like doing an inhaler, like what's happening. And by this time I'm doing breathing treatments at least once a day, but, just Pulmozyme and saline, but that really scared me, and it scared my husband, because I've never felt like that. And I can remember being like laying on the bathroom floor after taking a shower, like so exhausted, like crying, like, what is gonna happen here? And then they got me on the pick, and after 2 weeks, I really wasn't feeling better. And I got a new pulmonologist, and he said, we're not pulling this pick. We're doing another week. And sure enough, like that's what I needed.
Okay, so that's something I think we discussed last year when I was getting tuned up right after you got tuned up. Like we were like almost simultaneously getting PICC lines, and it was like, I just don't know if this is the time. And I think like post-modulator is even harder, because before that I'd be like, oh yeah, I'm sick, let's get in. But now it's like, am I sick? I'm still running, I'm coughing. At the same time, do I need IV antibiotics? I think like it's a little bit tougher to realize when you actually need it post-modulator.
Right, and if I'm not culturing anything scary, like then how do you know? What should I, and when should I make that decision? So that's kind of, where I'm at now. So I'm trying to listen to my body. But then on top of that, it's hard because in perimenopause, I'm not sleeping because of hormonal changes. So there's this whole part of being older with CF, and it's like, who do I talk to? I mean, I have some friends with CF that are my age, women, but we're all kind of like, hello, like can anybody, because it's different than me and even my girlfriends without CF are going through it, and it is still hard to kind of get answers and sort through all this. But I think with cystic fibrosis, everything is more intensified, every single thing. So I don't know, it's hard to gauge how I should be treating that, and I think that's playing a part. If you don't get enough sleep, it affects your immune system regardless. And so that's a big part of this like change in life right now, where I'm trying to navigate that. And do I talk about hormone replacement therapy? Is that even something but that's the component, because I'm questioning, is this a symptom of CF or is this a symptom of hormonal changes?
That, like you're saying, like perimenopause, menopause, and CF, because we know like there are some studies, I think, that show like when women have their cycle each month, there's a higher risk of hemoptysis. And I know that I cough up blood mainly every month right before, and I'm like, oh, here we go, it's gonna happen. So I'm wondering on a bigger level with perimenopause and menopause, like what else is it doing to our lungs and body?
Well, everything I'm just learning about that process too, that dip in estrogen affects every organ in our bodies. And the thing that makes a lot of sense because it's like it affects your dopamine. So that's like, your fatigue, energy levels, all that stuff. And I'm like, okay, that helps me feel less freaked out, like what is going on with me. But it is hard to gauge. And I spoke to a woman who is in her late 50s. She has CF, her sister has CF. And I feel like she mentioned that her sister was trying to start a group for women about perimenopause and menopause. So, I mean, we're living longer, it's happening. It's just hard to find, who do we talk to? Like my OBGYN, she doesn't have any other, patients with CF. So it's
people,
like,
yeah.
what do you do? But that's the thing about figuring out what is happening. And it's this constant kind of like, I don't know, we call it like whack-a-mole. Like, what thing am I trying to figure out with my body today? Because it's the most urgent thing so that I'm okay and healthy. Like, it's good.
Dude. So like, what is your day-to-day now? You're doing treatments, right?
I'm doing a lot more treatments since last summer. Things have shifted. I stopped teaching. So I was only teaching online. I stopped doing that for a couple of reasons. I mean, kids are tired of doing Zoom stuff. They want to do face-to-face. I personally can't do face-to-face. I feel like that's putting myself at greater risk for regular germs, for COVID, all that kind of stuff. And it's just kind of like navigating the balance of life. And I'm trying to find that balance again. So, I mean, I think as we get older too, it's just, there's more limitations. And that's been really hard for me to accept some of those limitations, because I think we're all kind of overachievers, and we all we got to be the best, and we gotta go. Like we're gonna nothing. This isn't gonna keep us down or whatever. And I feel like that's been hard for me to accept some of my limitations and realize like it's okay. I don't have to feel guilty, and I also don't have to feel like I'm a failure. Because I'm really hard on myself. I want to be the best wife, sister, daughter, friend, dog mom. And I'm like, I'm failing at everything. So I'm learning to kind of give myself more grace with that.
Yeah, and this is new to you. It's like within the last 5 years, you've really had to shift your perspective, because you are having like firsthand repercussions from things that you love doing, right? And now you can't do them. So that's gotta be hard as hell. Do you have anything you would tell your younger self about living with CF and navigating CF? Because you're a little bit different than a few people, or most people we talk to, where it's when they're young, they get into their teens, the health starts to decline. They either get a transplant or get a modulator, and life is like better than they ever thought. Yours is a little bit different. So is there anything you would tell yourself in that regard?
I mean, more than like living with CF, I think the thing we touched on earlier is that feeling of being different, or the brokenness. And I think what that can create, particularly in women, and for me, is this like people pleasing and this needing everyone to like you, and that part. And I'm 48 and I still deal with that. Like setting boundaries, saying no, and not beating myself up for not being able to do everything all the time, or having to say, I'm not feeling well, I can't do that. I actually have to stop trying to control everything around me, because I can't. And it creates a lot of like internal anxiety for me. And I'm like, who's this helping? Or anybody. So, but that's it. And I think just learning to like trust ourselves more. I think that's the other thing is I don't always feel like I trusted myself to like make choices or decisions about my own life. And I was like looking to other people like, is this okay? Should I do this? And I just want to be like, no, I got this. Like, I've really got it. I'm 48. Like, I can do this.